This is my passion. This is Ike's Outdoors. Hey guys, Ike here from IkesOutdoors.com. Today I'm going to show you the basics of how to shoot a compound bow. I know I get this question all the time on I need tips for this, tips for that. So I'm just going to run through it real quick. And the main reason I'm showing you that, guys, this is because if you're taught bad techniques to begin with, you're going to end up like me. And I've got some bad forms, and I've got some bad habits that I've picked up over the years that are just are hard for me to break now. And the reason is I started out just someone handed me a bow and here you go shoot. And that was I was shooting a 30-inch draw length when I was 13 years old. So of course I was shooting way back behind my head and shooting shot a recurve for a long time and developed some bad habits there. So I'm going to show you guys the proper way to shoot a bow, just enough to get you started. This is, you know, not how to set up a bow or do anything like that. This is exactly just enough to get you started in the basics of shooting a compound bow. Okay, so the first thing and most important thing, you've already gone to the shop, have this bow fit to you, get your draw length set properly, your draw weight set properly, and have your bow set up and tuned. We're assuming that you've already got all that taken care of. So the first and most important thing is gripping the bow. It's how you grip the bow. You do not want to grip the bow like this with like a baseball bat. You don't want to have a firm grip on it, and you don't want too much of your hand touching the bow. And there's a couple things that's going to cause. One, you can see my string is laying right against my forearm there, and when I shoot, that's going to hit my forearm and really cause a lot of pain. The other thing is the more contact you have with the bow, the only thing that this bow, when you release an arrow, the only thing touching that bow is this hand. So the more contact you have with it, the more it's going to influence that arrow and how it shoots and how accurate it is. So your grip the bow should be, when you turn your hand like this, you have your hand like this, you should turn it up to about a 10 o'clock position. Here's 12, 11, 10. So you should have it about 11 o'clock position. And you'll notice that puts my grip now, most of my hand is out here away from the bow. I also like to shoot, some guys like to shoot with their hands splayed open like this and it only resting on their thumb. I don't like to shoot with a wrist sling, but I recommend you guys shoot with one. Do as I say, not as I do type of thing. So wrist sling's definitely going to help, and I know from experience, this is the habit like I'm talking about that I can't break. I hang on to the bow. I shoot the bow with two fingers holding on to it, and that limits how accurate I am, and it limits how well I shoot the bow. Now granted, I shoot well enough, but I will never be a competition archer with the way I shoot. So what you want to do is you want to have your hand turned at that 11 o'clock position. You can now see there's a lot less of my hand touching the bow. And when I have my hand like this, and when you shoot, a lot of people will grip the bow, and you can see what that does to my bow. Just all I'm doing is flexing my hand, and I go from really loose to really tight, and you can see how that throws it off. When I've got my bow like this and I flex my hand, it moves, but it barely moves. It's not near as exaggerated as what it was before. So you don't want to have your hand like that. You don't want to hold it like you're gripping a baseball bat. You want to have your hand open, and you want to have it at about 11 o'clock position. This handle is basically going to set right there in your hand. You can see that? It's going to set right there across. Mine basically sets right there like that is how it's going to set in there. It's going to sit right there in that part of my hand. So instead of having my whole palm on there to really mess up the shot, I've only got a small part of my hand on there. So that is a very, very key thing to having accuracy on your bow. Now the next thing is how to actually line up your sight. So we got your arrow on here. We got our arrow on, and we're going to assume you're shooting with a release. When you pull back, you're going to have what you call an anchoring point. And when you're at full draw, your anchoring point has to be the same every time. This is very key in archery, is that your form is very consistent every time. So when you get back to full draw, I like to anchor with my knuckle. I put my first knuckle right there under my ear, and what that does is that lays my arrow right across my jaw. So I have my arrow laying right across my jaw every time. I have my knuckle right under here. There's several different ways you can do it. You can do it with your hand under your jaw. You can pretty much put it anywhere you want to on the side of your face. But it has to be something you can consistently do every time. Some people use kisser buttons. That's what kisser buttons are for. You pull back and you put the kisser button in the corner of your mouth, and it causes you to anchor in the same place every time. I don't like a kisser button because for some reason it always tears my mouth up, and I always get a sore on the side of my mouth. So you should be able to pull back consistently and hit the same anchoring position every time. So now when you got your anchoring position set, and you want to set your anchoring position, say here, you're going to set your peep sight. And a shop should do this. You should be able to pull your bow back just like that, slide up into your anchoring position, get comfortable, and your peep sight should line up exactly with your eye. And your peep sight, when it lines up with your eye, the peep sight will only be so big, and it should correspond with the outside size of your housing on your sight. So you'll pull back, you'll line your peep sight up with your eye. Your sight, assuming that it's sighted in and that you're shooting accurately, will consume the housing on your sight will pretty much consume the entire opening of your peep sight at full draw. So you got your hand where it's supposed to be. You pull back, find your anchoring position, and now my peep sight is directly in front of my eye, and my housing for my sight is lined up with the peep sight. Now your pins, you're going to have multiple pins on most sights. Should go from top to bottom, 10, 20, 30, 40, or some people put them in 5-pound increments. So I went ahead and shot that one just because I was getting tired and I didn't want to let it down. So that's the basics of how you line up your sights. Your peep sight, come back to your anchoring position. Your peep sight should line up right in front of your eye without having to do anything with your head or having to do anything weird with to get it to line up. It should line up right in front of your eye. When you look through it, you should be able to see the housing on your sight, and then your sights, your pins in there are going to rank from closest to farthest, top to bottom. So closest will be the top one, and then like mine is 20, 30, 40, 50. So you got 10-yard increments. Some people will do 5. Some people will do 10, 20, 30, 35, 40, 45, and on and on. But I just do mine in 10-yard increments, so I've got 20, 30, 40, 50. So that's the basics of lining your peep sight up. Next thing we're going to do is talk about drawing the bow, and we're going to show you how you should stand, and the mental aspect of shooting your bow. Okay, so you got your grip established at that 11 o'clock position. You got your anchoring point established, and you're hitting that anchoring point consistently. When you hit your anchoring point, your peep sight is lining up directly with your eye. Through your peep sight, you can see the entire housing of your pins. Your pins are 10 or in 10-yard increments, 20, 30, 40, or how many ever pins you have. So now the next thing we're going to talk about is how you should stand when you shoot your bow. It's very important to stand properly and get your feet set. What you're going to want to do is, say the camera is the target. You don't want to get too far into it, because when you do, it kind of makes you stand a little bit, makes your stance a little weak. What you want to do is have instead of having your left foot pointing directly at the target or directly in line with the target, what you want to do is open your left foot about 30 degrees where you're standing a little bit more square to the target. And then when you pull your bow back, you can stand like that, and you've got a nice solid base to stand, and it's going to make you a lot more solid when you're shooting, when you're at full draw. So you don't want to be like this. You want to open up just a little bit, be at about a 30-degree angle with your legs to the target, and that's going to make your feet should be about shoulder width apart, good solid base, and it's going to shore you up just a little bit better, and it's going to make you just a little bit more solid when you shoot. So 30 degrees to the target, and that's going to be how I shoot. Now the next thing is going to be your draw cycle. It's pretty dangerous if you have a draw if you're overbowed. Your draw cycle, or when you're drawing this bow back, you should be able to set this bow, set your feet, set your hand, and you should be able to pull this bow directly like that. Now, if you're at 70 pounds and that's and you have to do what I call a sky draw, or you really have to struggle with it, you're overbowed. You've got too much poundage in there. Sky draw is when you got to pull up and you're trying to pull down. I see a lot of guys, and I see Michael Waddell do it a lot, and I think Michael Waddell pulls way too much weight. When Michael Waddell pulls back, he has to really force it, and I see a lot of people doing it. You should be able to just point your bow right at the target and heave it back just like that. Shouldn't be any kind of grunting, groaning, or anything like that going on. Should be a nice, smooth transition that you should be able to hold exactly, you know, for quite a while. So, don't overbow yourself. Don't get into too much draw width. That's very, very important. Draw length's pretty important too. You want to make sure you're not pulling too long or pulling too short. It should fit you accurately. And this is something that a good bow technician will have you set up. If a guy tries to talk you into a 70-pound bow and you can barely pull it, and the draw length feels like you're reaching behind your head, then you should go to another bow technician. You want a bow that's going to fit you properly to shoot a little bit more accurately. So, okay, we got our feet set at 30 degrees to the target, and I got my hand position set the way it needs to be. The next thing we're going to talk about is your bow arm. This arm right here. When you shoot, your bow arm should remain steady. And I'm not talking about while you're shooting, because you can see I'm drifting down here. Get to your anchoring point. And you noticed that when I shot, I didn't drop my arm. A lot of guys are pretty bad about dropping their arm when they shoot, because they're trying to see where the arrow goes. Or their arms gets tired because they've got too much, the bow's heavy, they've been shooting 70 pounds all day, so they're pretty tired. So when you release that arrow, your arm, this arm should stay where it's at. It shouldn't drop away. It should stay just like that. It shouldn't drop at the shot, or your arrow's going to go low. So that's another thing about this arm, is I see a lot of people and a lot of differences, and it really is more personal, what's comfortable for you. I like to shoot with my arm a little bit relaxed. I don't lock my elbow in. I like to shoot with mine relaxed. I see some guys who shoot with it really relaxed. You know, they shoot back here. So you get in that comfort zone is what's important to you. I know some guys recommend you lock it out. I don't like to do that. It's just personal preference. I like to have just a little bit of, I don't like to lock it. I like to extend it out and just have it kind of loose there. So you can set your bow arm the way you want to, as long as you repeat it every time, and as long as you don't drop your arm when you're shooting. Alright, now this is where I have trouble. This is my Achilles heel as far as archery goes. Squeezing the trigger on your release. If you're a finger shooter, when you pull back, instead of opening your hand, what you should do is relax your hand, and the string will eventually just slip away. As a release shooter, you're going to have a trigger on your release, unless it's a back tension release, which you don't have to worry about it. And the trigger on your release is just like the trigger on a gun. You don't want to punch it, which you'll see me do quite a bit, and I get a lot of comments about it. And yes, guys, I know I punch, so don't leave me any more comments. So I know I punch, and my problem isn't when I'm shooting at a target. I do it really bad when I don't have sights on. So sometimes when I'm testing bows, like at the ATA show, or when we're up at Bow Freaks and I don't have sights on there, I'm feeling the draw cycle, I'm feeling the back wall. I'm not really concerned about how I'm going to hit, I'm just feeling everything. And then when I feel the shot, I want to feel the shot, I reach up, hit the trigger, and I'm not really paid attention to my form. And that's why you see me punch the trigger a lot, which it's a bad habit, but it's accentuated or really a lot worse when I'm shooting a bow without sights on it. So I know I punch the trigger when I do that, guys. So what you want to do is, like I said, it's just like a rifle. When you pull, I'm just going to pull this back here without an arrow on it, so the camera can see. I'm going to put a little bit of tension on this thing. What I do is, when I pull back, I keep my hand here behind the bow, and I've got this is a Carter Quickie. and I've put a 4-pound trigger spring in it, so I've got a very heavy pull. I hate a sensitive pull because it makes you trigger shy, because when you touch it, it's going to go off. So that's what's made me so trigger shy, is shooting so many sensitive releases. This one is a 4-pound trigger pull, so it's not quite as bad. So I got just a little bit of tension on there. When I pull back, I'll keep my finger back here for safety, and when I get to my anchoring position, I'll slide my finger around. Your finger position on your release should be just about like that. You should be able to wrap your finger around the trigger on your release. You want to be able to get to that first knuckle right there. So just like that. When I've got it at full draw, I can reach right up there and I can do that. This one has an adjustable head on it, and a lot of them out there do. Some of the cheaper ones don't. So if you get one with an adjustable head, you want to be able to, at full draw, wrap your finger right around that. So I keep my finger behind it, I pull back, I get in my anchoring position, and then I'll bring my finger around. And that's where a lot of people see me slapping, is I'll bring my finger around, and as soon as it touches that trigger, I push it, and it's punching the trigger. So what you want to do is bring it around, wrap your finger around it, and the boat full draw. You want to just start like you would with a rifle, just a nice slow squeeze, and then it'll go off. And that's going to really, it should surprise you every time. That's going to really improve your accuracy and really improve how well you shoot. So just like that, wrap it around, give it a nice slow squeeze, and it should fall right away, and it should be a surprise to you. So that's about it on what we've talked about. Now the thing is to put them all together. You got to put all this stuff together, and the best way to do it is to do it mentally. You know, you think about each step of this until it becomes muscle memory, until you can pull that bow back, you hit that anchoring position, you squeeze that trigger, you hold that arm up, you do everything right without having to think about it. And people ask, well, how do you do so well on deer? How do you do so well on big bucks? Which I don't do so well on big bucks, but I do well on deer because I have such good muscle memory, because I shoot so much and I shoot so consistently. So when a deer gets underneath me, I'm not having to think about my form, or I'm not having to think about my anchoring position, or get my peep sight lined up, or anything like that. I don't have to think about it anymore. And when a deer comes underneath me, I go through my mental routine just like I was shooting at a target, and I'm 9 times out of 10 I'm able to make a good shot on a deer. So this is my mental routine. You develop your own. When I step up to a target, I've got a target here. I square up to it. I turn myself in at 30 degrees, and I put my bow on my hip. When I got my bow on my hip, I set my feet to where I'm comfortable, and I set them to where I feel like I've got a good solid stand. At this point, I'll take my release and knock the arrow off. Cheap Luminox. I will never shoot again. So with the bow on my hip, I got my feet set. I clip my release right on there, and I do this because this is how I do it in a tree stand. So I've got my feet set with the release on here. It kind of holds the bow, and I can get my grip the way I want it. I've got my grip the way I want it, and I pull my bow up directly at the target, pull back, and when I get pulled back, you'll notice I'm pulling back down here. Then I'll set and I'll find my anchoring point. I've got my peep sight and my scope pointed at the target, and at this time I've now got my finger wrapped around my release. I'm finding my spot, and I'm thinking to myself, aim, anchor, aim, anchor, aim, anchor, aim, until it goes off. So a nice gentle squeeze of the trigger, and that time I did it right. You know, I squeezed the trigger, did everything right, my arm didn't fall, and I do pretty well. Of course, my target's 5 yards from me, but that's the mental exercise I use when I'm shooting. I set my feet, I get my release set on, I get my hand in the position that I want it. When I draw back, I'm thinking anchoring point, and I find my anchoring point. You notice I don't just draw back to my anchoring point, I draw back below it, and then I find my anchoring point. So, and it's easy for me because I just force my finger up under my ear, and when I do that, my arrow lays right along across my jaw. So I think find my anchoring point. When I find my anchoring point, everything's lined up as far as my peep sight, my sight, and at that point all I'm thinking then is aim. Take your time, aim, pick a spot, aim. You know, I don't have to think about, is my hand right, is my release right, you know, am I doing everything right? My muscle memory is taking over, and to this point now I don't even think about any of that stuff. I just go out, and when I shoot, I automatically set my feet the way I want. If you noticed, when I had my release on, my hand was already set, because I've done it for so long and shot the same way for so long. This is not something you're going to go out and pick up on the first 10 shots. You know, this is something that in 1,000 shots you're going to start to develop this muscle memory. And like I said, it's very important to get this stuff down now. When you first start shooting, you're going to end up like me, because I was never taught, because I shot a lot of recurve and did a lot of different things, had a poor setup when I began. It really helped me develop a lot of bad habits that are now hard for me to break. And I've definitely come a long way on them, but the one thing that still vexes me is the trigger. I still have a bad habit of wanting to slap that trigger. So that's basically it as far as what you need to do to start shooting a compound bow. Take the bow to a good technician, get it set up properly, get your draw weight set up properly, your draw length set up properly, and you will shoot a whole lot better. Even if your form is really good, when you shoot a bow that doesn't fit you very well, then you're going to have problems shooting it no matter how good your form is, especially if your draw length's too long. Because if your draw length's too long, you get to where you're leaning back and you get to where it's going to cause you a lot of trouble, and it's really going to rob some strength from you as well. So draw weight's very, very important as well. This bow's set on about 62 pounds. I can shoot 70 pounds, but I don't want to, because it really makes me have to struggle. So I shoot 70 pounds on a lot of test bows you guys see me test, but you notice too with a lot of them, the ones that have more of a harsh draw cycle, I struggle with 70 pounds. So when I shoot my bow, I shoot it at a manageable weight. So that's two of the most important things, is draw length and draw weight, getting those set properly. So I hope this helps you guys out. That's the basics of how to shoot a compound bow. That's the way I do it, and that's like I said, it's going to help you develop good habits instead of bad ones, and hopefully get you on the right track of shooting, and hopefully get you shooting better than me, because I do not shoot competitively very well, but I shoot really well on deer, and that's what's important to me. So I hope this helps you guys out. For more product reviews, how-to videos, visit our website, Ike's Outdoors. You can IkesOutdoors.com. You can also find us on Facebook under Ike's Outdoors. And appreciate you guys watching this video.